The Post's Neil Greenberg analyzed NCAA statistics from the past 7 March Madness tournaments to give you pointers on how to make a winning bracket. Monica Actor, John Parks, Sarah Hashemi, The Washington Post. Where does your college basketball team stand as Selection Sunday draws closer? We'll break down the winners and losers from all the conference tournament action, with an eye on how the results will affect the NCAA tournament bracket. Check back for updates. It's just not enough for Notre Dame. The first 12 minutes of Notre Dame's ACC quarterfinal against Duke on Thursday was a glimpse of what could have been. Matt Farrell conducting the Fighting Irish's offense. Bunzie Colson collecting baskets thanks to both skill and savvy. Skip passes, bounce passes, and flat-out smart passes. It was a lot like how Notre Dame played the last 3 seasons. It wasn't always so during league play this season. Colson's nearly 2-month absence because of a broken foot sapped the Irish of one of the nation's best interior players. Farrell missed time, too, and it contributed to the Irish's mid-season 7-game slide. When they returned healthy, Notre Dame's postseason hopes were boosted during the final week of the regular season. Against postseason-worthy competition, the Irish played Virginia tough on the road, rallied past Virginia Tech in the second-round ACC tournament and then traded baskets with Duke, before fading to an 88-70 loss. At full strength and regular rest, few would argue the Irish aren't dangerous, but they weren't at full strength for much of the season, and they only did so much, beating Wichita State and Maui, knocking off Syracuse at the Carrier Dome, upending Florida State and NC State at home. In the end, teams have to prove it in the win column, and Notre Dame didn't do it enough. Some of that was a function of injuries, but that's probably not going to be enough to receive clemency from the NCAA basketball committee. Michael Porter Jr. and Missouri just became the biggest mystery of March Madness. Where, exactly, are the Cowboys at? The second most interesting team in the country made a run at top honors when it built a 10-point lead in the first half against Kansas. Oklahoma State taking 3 from the Jayhawks would have helped the Cowboys' stealth campaign at an out-of-nowhere at-large bid. Instead, Kansas gathered itself and earned an 82-68 victory, leaving the Cowboys 19-14. with quite a set of victories and virtually no help from any metrics to boost their cause. Oklahoma State beat Kansas twice and both Texas Tech and West Virginia once. It was also dominated by the Big 12's mid-pack, going a combined 0-6 against Baylor, Kansas State and Texas Christian. But at their best, the Cowboys were awfully dangerous. Oklahoma State also entered the day ranked No. 85 in the RPI, a metric that isn't, and shouldn't be, the final arbiter for selection. It is a sorting tool, and it does have importance. But there's never been an at-large selection with an RPI in the 80s. A stat Oklahoma State is unlikely to change. Providence does the best it can. There was no fixing the biggest gap in Providence's postseason resume: the lack of a high-end true road victory. The Friars probably did the next best thing by knocking off Creighton 72-68 in the Big East quarterfinals. In a sense, there was some good fortune at play for Providence, 20-12, in need of a victory to improve its NCAA tournament hopes. It could have faced long odds Thursday by drawing an imposing heavyweight, or faced a poor opponent that would do little to improve its postseason standing. Instead, they played the Blue Jays, a solid NCAA tournament candidate but certainly a beatable one. The Friars' big problem is their 3 ugly losses. They fell at Massachusetts, and also lost home games to Minnesota and DePaul. The Minnesota loss didn't look bad until the wheels came off for the depleted Golden Gophers. But the other 2 stumbles were clear missteps. Do victories over Butler, Creighton, twice, Villanova and Xavier overcome those silly losses? Maybe. At the very least, Providence's standing is a little stronger than it was a day ago. One caveat: the Friars are not an analytics darling. Currently checking in at no. 72 in the KenPom.com rankings. Toss in the unusual quantity of shaky losses, and there might still be more for Providence to accomplish this week at the Garden. Kansas State is the perfect representative of this year's NCAA tournament bubble. The Wildcats, 22-10, are perfectly milquetoast on paper. They don't own a bunch of distinguishing victories. They went at a combined 0-6 against the Big 12's top three teams: Kansas, Texas Tech and West Virginia. At the same time, there's nothing about Bruce Weber's team that suggests it doesn't belong in the field of 68. They have an abysmal non-conference schedule, ranked no. 337 of 351 Division I teams entering Thursday. But they're hardly the only bubble teams to have blemish. That's one reason K-State has vaulted into the Washington Post's projected field. See below. If Virginia Tech gets in with an identical shortcoming and a slightly better set of victories, how far behind could Kansas State have been? Another reason is that this year, programs scrambling to avoid the NIT might not have to do that much to distinguish themselves. Kansas State might have earned just enough separation Thursday with its 66-64 overtime defeat of Texas Christian in the Big 12 quarterfinals. Sure, the Wildcats fouled with a 2-point lead in the final seconds. TCU bailed them out by missing the free throws. It doesn't matter how you win, just that you do. Today's triumph will help K-State a bunch. Another one Friday against Kansas or Oklahoma State would do even more good. One crying moment: 15 of the toughest defeats in NCAA tournament history. How much is enough for Alabama? The Crimson Tide's riveting 71-70 victory over Texas A&M in the Southeastern Conference tournament Thursday begs that very question. Did Alabama, 18-14, loser of 5 in a row entering the league tournament, do enough to warrant inclusion in the field of 68 when Colin Sexton went coast-to-coast for a layup in the Final Four? 4 seconds. Or will something more like a win over Auburn on Friday be needed? The Crimson Tide faced the nation's No. 5 schedule prior entering Thursday. It did almost all of its best work at home, with the exception a drubbing of Florida in Gainesville. Alabama also owned a respectable 5-6 record against Quadrant 1 teams in the NCAA's tournament committee's strength of schedule formulations. 2 of its most questionable losses, Minnesota and Central Florida, came before those teams lost key players for the remainder of the season and subsequently faded. There is always a temptation to read too much into recent performance, but the committee evaluates the entirety of the season. Though Alabama created some headaches for itself with its recent slide, it still gets credit for everything it accomplished. The Crimson Tide might still have work to do, but that beats a one-and-done showing in the SEC tournament. Louisville is in limbo, just like it has been all season. From the second Rick Pitino was fired, Louisville's season wasn't really about the season. It was about dealing with the fallout of Pitino's exit, and what was to come after the program re-emerged from whatever penalties the NCAA levied. The 2017-18 Cardinals were a bridge between a past filled with removed banners and a future of heavens knows what. This interim team, with an interim coach, David Paget, produced a 20-13 record devoid of much accomplishment or demerit. The Cardinals lost 75-58 to Virginia in Thursday's ACC quarterfinals and will wait 3 days to learn how they will spend their postseason, however brief that stay may be. This time, Virginia skips the drama versus Louisville in ACC tournament quarterfinals. Louisville lost to Purdue, Seton Hall and Kentucky. It fell to Duke, North Carolina and Virginia 3 times. Its most regrettable moments were home losses to Florida State and Syracuse. Its biggest accomplishments defeats of borderline NCAA tournament teams Florida State, Notre Dame and Virginia Tech on the road. Maybe the Cardinals get in the NCAA tournament, and maybe they don't, but 33 games into the season, they'd probably be one of the most forgettable teams in the field. Given the circumstances surrounding their season, it would be a fitting fate. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Bracket projection. South Region. Charlotte. 1. Atlantic Coast Virginia vs. 16. Big South. Radford Southwestern Athletic Arkansas Pine Bluff winner. 8. Missouri vs. 9. Southern California. San Diego. 5. Ohio State vs. 12. Western Athletic New Mexico State. 4. Texas Tech vs. 13. Sun Belt All Lafayette. Wichita. 3. American Athletic Cincinnati vs. 14. Big West UC Davis. 6. Seton Hall vs. 11. Virginia Tech. Nashville. 7. Texas Christian vs. 10. The St. Bonaventure. 2. Southeastern Auburn vs. 15. Big Sky, Montana. Tony Bennett and Virginia hoops aren't for everyone, but it's okay to be different. East Region. Pittsburgh. 1. Villanova vs. 16. Southland, Southeastern Louisiana Northeast, Lou Brooklyn winner. 8. UCLA vs. 9. Oklahoma, Boise, Idaho. 5. West Coast, Gonzaga vs. 12. Missouri Valley, Loyola Chicago. 4. Clemson vs. 13. Summit, South Dakota State, Dallas. 3. Tennessee vs. 14. Patriot Bucknell. 6. Miami vs. 11. Alabama Providence winner. Detroit. 7. Creighton vs. 10. Kansas State. 2. Purdue vs. 15. Horizon, Wright State. Midwest Region. Nashville. 1. Big East, Xavier vs. 16. Mid-Eastern Athletic, Hampton. 8. NC State vs. 9. Mountain West, Nevada, Boise, Idaho. 5. Florida vs. 12. Mid-American, Buffalo. 4. West Virginia vs. 13. America East, Vermont, Detroit. 3. Big Ten, Michigan vs. 14. Southern, UNC Greensboro. 6. Kentucky vs. 11. Marquette, Florida State winner. Pittsburgh. 7. Houston vs. 10. Arizona State. 2. North Carolina vs. 15. Metro Atlantic, Iona, West Region. Wichita. 1. Big 12 Kansas vs. 16. Ivy, Harvard. 8. Atlantic 10 Rhode Island vs. 9. Butler, San Diego. 5. Wichita State vs. 12. Conference USA, Middle Tennessee. 4. Pac-12 Arizona vs. 13. Ohio Valley, Murray State, Dallas. 3. Michigan State vs. 14. Colonial College of Charleston. 6. Texas A&M vs. 11. Texas, Charlotte. 7. Arkansas vs. 10. St. Mary's. 2. Duke vs. 15. Atlantic Sun, Lipscomb. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Field notes. Last 4 included Marquette, Florida State, Providence, Alabama. 4 just on the outside. Syracuse, Louisville, Baylor, Utah. Next 4 on the outside. Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Nebraska, Penn State. Moving in. Kansas State. Moving out. Syracuse. Clinched automatic bids. Bucknell, Patriot, Charleston, Colonial, Gonzaga, West Coast, Iona, Metro Atlantic, Lipscomb, Atlantic Sun, Lou Brooklyn, Northeast, Loyola Chicago, Missouri Valley, Michigan, Big Ten, Murray State. Ohio Valley, Radford, Big South, South Dakota State, Summit, UNC Greensboro, Southern, Wright State, Horizon, Conference Call, Atlantic Coast, 8, Southeastern, 8, Big East, 7, Big 12, 7, Big 10, 4, Pac-12, 4, American Athletic, 3, Atlantic 10, 2, West Coast, 2, more college basketball. Kevin Stallings was a disaster from the start at Pittsburgh, and now he's out. Missouri's Michael Porter Jr. is coming back for March Madness. Warren Buffett keeps trying to give away big bucks in an NCAA tournament bracket contest. Tournament schedules and updates. ACC, Big East, Big 12, Pac-12, SEC.